First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go around that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
yes,
but an erratic detective, is Mickey Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, good, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Gildarie, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hello there, wherever you are, based in different time zones. Good evening, good night, good afternoon. I know in London, where my daughter
Brian,
is,
how are you doing?
It's good morning.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that little glitch.
Go ahead.
One of our guests had a little problem there. Anyway, sorry to tell you that Gildarie got caught up with his work, so he wouldn't be here this evening, but he promised he will be here on Friday. So once again, welcome to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We come to you Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We had a special program last evening. You can get it on YouTube. Just go, type in on YouTube, Freddie Kissoon show, 1973 election martyrs, and the program will come up. We interviewed the children of Bolanot Parmanan that was shot by the soldiers in the 1973 election when the soldiers were taking the ballot boxes. This evening we have three guests that have made this show a success. This is their third appearance, and they were very kind to come here 2 times before, and their viewership was very extensive. And this evening should be no difference. Our three guests this evening in alphabetical order is Rajendra Bissessar. He was one of the team from the Alliance for Change that negotiated the covenant, the arrangement with the PNC in the 2015 election, and thus was born APNU plus AFC. That covenant is called the Commonsburg Accord, and that was the document that would shape the relationship between AFC and APNU if they get into power. One of the men who was at the negotiating table for the AFC was Rajendra Bissessar. He was also an executive member of the AFC and a member of the management committee. Alphabetically, we go to Michael Carrington. Michael Carrington represented the AFC in Parliament from 2015 to 2020. He was a member of the management committee that ran the affairs of the AFC and an executive member of the 32 decision-making body of the AFC. And finally, Leonard Craig. Craig was one of the foundation members. He said there's a difference between founding members and foundation members when he was on this program a few months back, and I understand that distinction. Leonard Craig, like Rajendra Bissessar and Mr. Carrington was a management committee member and also an executive member. Then he was a member of the team that renegotiated the Commonsburg Accord in February 2020, and he was the deputy general secretary of the AFC. Tonight we have in our studio 3 former heavyweights, 3 former bigwigs, 3 former hierarchical leaders of the Alliance for Change. We've gathered in the studio this evening to discuss some of the statements made by Raphael Trotman in his book, From Destiny to Prosperity. There are some statements made in this book that Bissessar, Craig, and Carrington need to comment on, especially if they are going to save their credibility. And I would like to think all 3 of them have played a useful part, perhaps more than a useful part, in Guyanese politics. But there are some statements made here that the public out there, even though those who are not watching this program, they would like to know how you explain some of the statements Raphael Trotman made in this book, one of which is very, very disturbing, and we're going to start with that. But before my first question, which is alphabetically, so it's Bissessar, then Carrington, then Craig. Let's start with protocol. Rajendra, thanks for being here again and again and again.
Nice
Leonard, you look dapper, man. And
nice being here again.
Good. Now, could you guys get to your book, page 2? Now, this is interesting, and I think the historians will pick up on this 20, 40 years from now. I'm going to read what the deputy leader of the de facto deputy leader of the Alliance for Change said in this book. At the time of the 2015 election campaign, he was as big in the AFC as any other AFC leader. So people saw him and Ramjatan as the 2 bigwigs. In 2015 May, the APNU plus AFC entity won the elections. Now, the AFC met to decide on its seats. Here is what Raphael Trotman said in his book on page 2. And I will read for the viewers, and I will ask my panelists to pay careful attention. After the 2015 elections, for a reason never fully explained to me, I repeat, for reasons never fully explained to me, my name was not submitted for a ministerial position under the terms of the Commonsburg Accord arrangement. I have, however, rationalized that with the AFC having a limited number of positions to fill, I would be the natural loser, even though I had just successfully managed the 2015 campaign alongside the very capable Joe Harmon. He as co-manager with me. Admittedly, there were moments when my anxiety caused me to momentarily forget, and I had to remind myself that I always work on assignments from God, and that it was and always is He who positions and removes me or otherwise. Now, would anyone believe that in 2015, the AFC won an election, the Commonsburg Accord, and here I will ask the cameraman to focus on Bissessar. I'm pointing to Bissessar. Bissessar, could the cameraman focus on Bissessar, please? Bissessar negotiated the Commonsburg Accord. Now, under that accord, the AFC was to get 6 ministers and the Prime Minister. So let's leave the Prime Minister out. 6 ministers the AFC was to get. They met in a room The only person here that was not present in that room when they were selecting their ministers was Leonard Craig. Bissessar was present and Carrington was present. How the AFC could assign 6 leaders among their leadership and Raphael Trotman didn't get one. So, looking back now, how many ministers did the AFC have in the 2015-2020 government? Rajendra Bissessar, what's going on here? What is going on here?
Well, first of all, I was also a member of the management committee that made day-to-day decisions of the AFC. And as Freddie said, I was present when we were discussing the allocation of ministers. My first point is that for some reason, leaderships of political parties believe that they have this God-given right to be selected above everyone else. They were a servant. We elected them to run.
No, I have to cut you.
Do I understand that?
I have to cut you here. Before you, if you could skip that preamble.
Okay.
Mr.
Fine.
Trotman was actually seen by people in this country as important a leader in the AFC as how he did not get
the fact is the top leadership was more than the number of ministers. So somebody had to be left out. I understand your argument it should not be Trotman, but they selected him to be advisor to the president in governance. All right, so somebody...
The AFC did that?
Yeah. It was decided at the meeting that these were going to be the ministers and he was going to be the advisor to the president on governance. That was decided. In any case...
No, but so where are your 6 ministers then? In the room that you met?
Let me come to that. I'll come to that now. The reality is this, and I spoke before about the weakness and the lack of courage maybe on the part of the leadership of the Alliance for Change. Because, first of all, the Granger administration took one ministry, which was tourism and commerce and business and so on, one ministry. They divided it into 2. And they gave Gaskin business and gave Cathy tourism. Right away, instead of 6 ministries, we would have gotten...
No, but...
I'm saying to you, we did not get 6. Right away, we got 5
Rajendra Bissessar, you negotiated the Commons Board because it says 6 ministers. You were in the room there. They were picking the 6 ministries. 6 ministries.
And I'm explaining to you now.
But 6 ministries must have a leader of a ministry.
I'm explaining to you now. We did not get 6 ministries from the beginning. We got 6 ministers, but they took away 1 ministry. By dividing 1 into 2, we actually got 5 ministries. You got that? So the PNC gave us, contrary to the accord, the AFC got 5 ministries instead of 6 because they got 4 and 1 divided into 2. So we got 6 ministers, but 5 ministries. I hope you understand that. So right away, we were shortchanged and the leadership said nothing. Secondly, Trotman was not selected by the AFC, which means he was not one of the 6 ministers. Which means you cannot count Trotman in reality as one of the ministers that the AFC got, because the AFC did not recommend him, therefore he was not part of the 6 that we have. He was pushed in. He was appointed actually by Granger government administration, not by the Alliance for Change. So how can we consider him to be one of the ministers of the Alliance for Change when the Alliance for Change did not select him as a minister? He became one because the president decided to appoint him.
So
those are the facts.
So the facts are this man who founded the AFC with Kemba Tramchitan, they're in a room selecting ministers. You are there, and they called, you will have to call the lady's name and Carrington. I would not, because if she sues me, all right. If she sues me, I was not there. You were there, Carrington were there. they picked up the phone and called her and offered her the environmental ministry. But how could they do that? And the founder of the party, Trotman, is right there in the room. How could Cathy Hughes get a ministry? How could David Patterson get a ministry? Kemba Ramjatan get a ministry? They're calling a lady, her name is in the book here, but they haven't given one to the big Trotman, who's co-manager of the 2015 campaign. Joe Harmon representing APNU and he representing AFC. Can we go over to Carrington? Carrington, did you read page 2 here? That he's saying he was not made a minister?
I read it.
I know about that. It was truthful what he had written in there, that he was not made a minister in 2015. I remember the particular day we sat down and we were dealing with it, and Kemraj, and they were discussing who will be minister. And I could tell you the truth, Raphael Trotman's name was never mentioned at that particular day concerning.
But he was present there.
He was present there, but his name was not mentioned to be any ministerial position. At that particular time, I wanted to know why. Because he had recommended me for Parliament. Because my name also was not mentioned by Kemraj on that particular day if we go to Parliament. Although I was there, I missed it in 2006. And 2011 also I missed it, but I was always with the party battling on the ground. And in 2015, I think they had wanted to exclude me. But Raphael get up and said, what happened to Carrington? Carrington is here. Carrington is always on the ground. And then Kemraj said, we're going to include Carrington for Parliament. I think it's 12 seats we had in 2015. But was strangely on that particular day, Raphael Trotman's name was not mentioned whatsoever. Then I get it through the grapevine that the president called or something, and after he realized that Trotman was not put as a minister by the AFC, and put him in some position in terms of in the ministry, within the ministry of the presidency or something like that. I didn't get the chance to go through the book because it came this morning, and the whole day I was busy, so I didn't get a chance to read. But what I'm telling you, that was factual. AFC did not name him. The leadership of our AFC, or the AFC hadn't named him, or anybody named him as a minister at that time.
Well, before we come to Craig, I find this bizarre, surreal, and incredible that the AFC won the election in 2015. And everybody knows that the AFC is synonymous with two men, Raphael Trotman and Kemba Ramjatan. In fact, I am telling the viewers now, and I'm telling Raphael Trotman was the first person that broached the idea of forming the Alliance for Change and was there from the beginning. How could this party win an election and they're calling a woman to give her a ministry, and one of the biggest names in politics is sitting down right there, and who managed their campaign? Something is wrong there, Leonard. Craig, what is your take?
All right. So let me give you some background. As you would have already announced, that I was not full-time in that meeting. I was in and out of the meeting, and I cannot give too much background as to what happened in the meeting. I think I was doing something else, or I can't remember. Nevertheless, like you, we would all seek an explanation for that. The explanation that was given to me is that Trotman had expressed a desire, that's what I was told, that among the senior leaders, he expressed a desire not to be so named, and that they were thinking, how do you navigate? He was the immediate past speaker And how does a speaker go back into the National Assembly as a regular member? So that was one challenge. The second factor is that he was thought to be immensely close with Granger, and that Granger had a specific place carved out for him. And I was told, similar to if you compare Gail Teixeira's role in the previous PPP along with Roger Lanchon, he would have been a cross between the two, or combining the two together, that would have been Raphael's position. He would have been close to the president. He would have been, quote unquote, one of the man of business. He would have been present and so, though he was not appointed a minister, he would have still had lots of power in the, or be high profile in the government. That is the explanation that was given to me. And so Raphael Trotman being in the meeting and being present, and I got the impression that he fully understood and it was a full agreement, so nobody bothered to even think about naming him because this thing was carved out. That is what was told to me. Subsequently, it further goes this way, that a particular person, I am not sure I should name him, I'll decide just now if I should. A particular person in the campaign architecture would have approached several persons, including Granger, including Trotman, and say, here, look.
I can name it as Alsum Stewart from Jamaica.
That is what you said. That's not what I said.
Yeah, I said, and I'm saying it now.
Okay.
Alsum Stewart, the caricature of the AFC was Alsum Stewart, was almost like the leader of the AFC.
Anyway,
yeah.
So the individual approached Granger along with Trotman and some other folks and say, here, when you consider the architecture of power in Guyana, you cannot legitimately express, or you cannot legitimately, if I use the term wield, I'm not so comfortable with the term, but for the want of a better word, you cannot wield power in Guyana unless you have the power of the ministerial office behind you. For example, you can speak legitimately at a cabinet meeting. Whereas if you had the other position, you can't. Somebody could tell you, shut up, you're not a member, you're not a constitutional member of this cabinet. And so that person brought that perspective and say, because of that, you need to be a minister. And then I understand that a midnight deal before the day of his appointment was made. And the next day, then he was named by Granger.
Okay. Before wait, let's deal with what he said is what in the book here. What he said just now bears no relation to what is in the book here. I will read again. After the elections, for reasons never fully explained to me, my name was not submitted for a ministerial position under the terms of the Commonwealth Accord arrangement. Now, the emphasis here, if you dissect and deconstruct these two lines, for reasons never fully explained to me, my name was not submitted for a ministerial position. It means, these two lines mean two things. The man was not against having a ministerial position, and whoever is doing the submission did not submit his name. That does not gel with what you were told that Raphael didn't want. Raphael is saying here, it's esoteric. He wanted a minister.
He was upset that he wasn't appointed by AFC as a minister.
So now history is being recorded here. Yeah. And that is why I talk about Alston Strout. Now, we're going to come back.
If I may take a pin, he was appointed as the advisor on governance. And I remember we had a meeting at...
When he said in the book, Granger appointed...
Let me finish.
No, but he said in the book, Granger appointed him.
Well, we had taken a decision there he was going to be that at the meeting, at our meeting. But let me say this. I had a discussion with him when he was advisor on governance, and we had at the place we normally meet at that hotel. And I was sitting chatting with him, and I was discussing with him saying, the advisor position wasn't this great and whatever, and you might get more money even as the advisor than actually the minister at that time. And I don't know if I put that thing in his mind in the sense that, you're just an advisor, not a minister. And it was after that, a little while after that, so there was some time that elapsed as advisor, when some time elapsed. And so I guess he might have gone and had a discussion with Granger.
Well, something is wrong here. And I think...
But he wasn't appointed a minister immediately.
Something is seriously and disturbingly wrong here. From 2015 to 2020.
I would like to suggest something. One, if you look at the struggle between Kemraj and Trotman afterwards, and the nature of the leadership of these parties, it's like they don't like challenges. And so there was some deliberate effort not to calculated effort not to have a particular ministerial position.
But something is...
By the AFC leadership.
No, but let us talk about party politics. When in Guyana, anyway. If in 2015 in May, the AFC leadership met at their head office and assigning ministerial position, and Trotman's name was not mentioned, it has to mean, in terms of absolute reality, it had to mean that those hierarchical members in the leadership, Patterson, Dominic Gaskin, Kemba Ramjatan, Noel Holder, Cathy. It meant that they did not want Trotman to become a minister. 1 year after, Trotman ran against Kemba Ramjatan at Vredenhoop School in December and won the leadership. Something is wrong, and I think the historian is going to find this confusing when he or she listens to this program. I'm not a believer, but how in heaven's name did he stay? How did he remain in the AFC? And if the AFC treated him like that when he was the core campaign manager, why did he seek the leadership of the party and he won it at Vredenhoop in December? What is going on there?
Freddie, remember you quoted just one paragraph from Raphael's book. But apart from that, he started the book in the preface by saying that he is writing from his perspective, through his own eyes, and he did not pretend to have another perspective. He didn't even venture into what another perspective might be. And I just presented you with another perspective that is outside of his purview, his own eyes. Now, based on what I presented to you earlier, I don't think that is entirely not factual, right? Because it is inconceivable that you sit in a room to name ministers and Raphael isn't named. His name didn't come up according to Michael. So there ought to have been some sort of discussion. Either Raphael may have said, just in a discussion, not you know, there are times when you have a discussion, let's say you're having a casual discussion and somebody turn and say to you, man, now we win the election, or it looks like we're going to win the election. Why, what role you see yourself playing? And you say, okay, my ideal role may be so, but it is not, that was not, probably was not set in stone, but that discussion probably did take place. And that person probably spread the news and say, look, this man is not interested. When we go in that room, we don't need to. I don't know.
No, hold a sec before you go. Leonard Craig, thousands of people are watching you. Mm-hmm. That explanation exists in the clouds. So, I mean,
mm-hmm. I'd call it deductive speculation.
First of all, let me say this, and I humbly apologize. I do not have the capacity to understand what you're saying.
That's a spin.
No, it is. I would admit.
What I'm saying,
this man wanted a minister job. This is his book.
You're speculating.
This is his book.
And he's saying that.
He is saying
you're speculating.
The people give him a minister.
In other words, let me be frank then.
It's not credible.
I am casting.
The first time you came to this program, there were a lot of callers saying, the man evading things. The man spinning.
No. I'm being directed to you. I'm being directed to you. I am saying
your perspective.
West Indies cricket team don't have a good spinner.
Your perspective is speculative.
You have to get the job.
It will be cast aside. The man said he wanted it. My point, and Fred is correct. The leaders are. You said we clearly take from the leaders are saying, right? And when we came up to the environmental, even to the environmental one, while you're seeking all over, and in hindsight now, you're wondering...
Would you like to call the lady's name? I could get Sue if I call her.
No, I can't.
Look, her name is here. Look, her name is here.
Okay. You don't. What?
It doesn't matter.
You don't want to...
The point is...
Why you don't want to call her name?
It's
history.
It's irrelevant who the person is. The fact is, as in hindsight...
The historians want to know
in hindsight, as you raised it, right? My question is this. Why is it even when they come up to the environmental thing, and you're searching, and Trotman was sitting there? As you're better.
How a man that found the party was the party's campaign manager, won an election in the world, not in Guyana. He and Kemba Jamjatan are seen as the AFC. And they are the AFC.
And he's seen as a competition by Cameron.
You give him a minister job. And then the man said, okay, I am going to take over this party. And he contested the leadership and won the party's leadership. Leonard Craig, well, let's go over to Carrington. Carrington, do you understand what Craig just said?
Craig is my good friend, but he looked like he was dancing just now. Yeah.
No, I think Craig is going to get a call. Craig is going to get a call from the West Indian cricket team because they need a spinner. They need a spinner.
Yeah. I call it speculative deduction, but it's like...
I was concerned with it, and
we're all concerned.
Yeah, his name wasn't mentioned. I don't know why. Up to today, why was the reason.
Okay, well, I got a new one for you guys now. Yeah. And each one of you, I would like to have your take. He won the leadership of the AFC in December at Vridenhoop 2016. He called in February 2017, he called a press conference. And this is what he said at the press conference. And only one person took it up and wrote about it. And only one journalist took it up. That person who wrote about it was me. The journalist that took it up and said this is a gold mine and investigated it was Leonard Craig.
Gildarie.
Leonard Gildarie. Craig, Trotman said at that first press conference as leader of the AFC, David Granger is a wonderful, lovely human being. I'll give you an example. We did not get some of us did not get ministerial positions in the AFC. And he was kind enough to reach out to us. He assigned a ministry to me, the portfolio of natural resources. He assigned the agricultural portfolio to Noel Holder and the business portfolio to Dominic Gaskin. It meant then that from 2015 to 2020, you have the 6 ministers in the AFC plus the Prime Minister when it was in fact three then. Patterson. If he appointed, if the president appointed Holder, I just said it, Holder, Trotman, and Gaskin, then only three ministers were given to the AFC under the Commonwealth Accord. Ministry of Tourism, Youth, Minister of Home Affairs, Ramjatan, and Minister of Public Works, Trotman.
It could be seen differently.
He said the president gave Holder the Ministry of Agriculture.
No, I heard that was.
I heard what you said, but in reality, I don't know why he said that, because
Valerie was called a junior minister in the Ministry of Armed Affairs. I think she wasn't part.
That's another crazy aspect of it. But let's go back to this specific question. The fact is,
agriculture
I don't know why he would have said that, because we took a decision at the management committee. Whoever became ministers, other than Trotman, that decision was taken, including Gaskin, including Noel. In fact, Noel was proposed to be senior and I was proposed to be junior minister. So those
were AFC.
We took a decision.
And why you didn't discipline him when he said that at the you were in the management committee, you were in the executive. He was in the management committee. He was in the executive. You were in the executive. You were in the management. You just said in this program. You also helped to run the day-to-day thing.
I didn't see that press conference actually.
That press conference was given wide publicity.
Yeah, but
Leonard Gildarie ran it. I ran it in a column.
Look,
look.
It didn't matter anything, because even in my instance, when a number of leading persons within the AFC were demanding of the leadership, what happened to the appointment of Mr. Bissessar? The leadership did not budge. And I can tell you something. There were a lot of speculation as to why. And one of the reasons I put forward about Trotman just now is like, leaders don't like challenges. They destroy you. They marginalize you. And I think whoever did that did it to marginalize Trotman and also did it to marginalize myself.
Pardon me?
No, it's all right. We need to go.
The marginalization of people by leaders.
Well, let's go back to Trotman's book. There is a part here in which he referred to Granger as a very great leader,
but he made a criticism too.
And it was unfortunate, according to him, that the Guyanese people did not see his greatness. I mean, he was voted out. How great was David Granger as a president? And I'd like to hear that from all three of you, beginning with Carrington, who I think had a less input in the debate just now.
But I like to be very straight. I wasn't very close to Mr. Granger. Camarades and all them would be close to Granger. I think Granger had appointed his ministers, all his ministers, and he gave them the free way to actually manage their ministry without him actually micromanaging it. And some do well, and in my opinion, some may not do well. Communication, he communicated with Granger, but this is my personal feeling, that Granger wasn't so much a good communicator in terms of communicating with its parliamentarians and those type of things. We hardly had meetings that we really sit. I'm not talking about cabinet. I'm talking about like backbenchers and those type of things and sit. I never got a call as an MP for APNU AFC, a call for him to have any discussion or him ask my idea on some kind of thing that taking place within the country. Any problems or whatever. They hardly had that communication, but Raphael and the cabinet basically will do a lot of communication with Granger. So in my own opinion, he wasn't, to me, a good communicator in terms of communicating, moving on the ground, talking to people, you know. He may have his set of people he move with, but as member of parliament, we didn't have that kind of sit and talk and say, or we're going in this particular direction. We didn't have that. So he's a good man, but in terms of communication, I think he had fallen with that.
I will come back to parts of the book.
Yeah.
So Craig,
All right.
and then,
with respect to Granger's greatness,
which is what Trotman is saying
as a leader, and I can only speak from my perspective. Granger had extremely good ideas, and ideas reside within the mind, but the execution of those ideas was basically not well done. For example, Raphael wrote in his book that Granger had very, very good ideas, and he was well-meaning about social cohesion in the country and unity and so on. And he did appoint a minister of social cohesion. But can we name anything that came out of the ministry? Can we name anything that advanced in real terms social cohesion? So what, for me, the greatness of Granger ended at his cognitive inside his mind, resided in his mind, and you can see that he meant well. You can see that he wanted these good things for the country. But as Michael said just now, which might be very well true, that he just appointed his ministers and gave them. And I think as a first-term government, you ought to run your ministry more from a political central. And let me just digress a little. When you read Raphael's entire book, he said he wrote his book. The book is centered around the 5 years that he served as minister. And there's hardly a single line about the political aspect of Raphael Trotman, the minister. He just talks about his administration, right? And which is reflective of the weakness of the entire Granger's administration. There was a lot of administration and people concentrate, but the political aspect, the meetings between the parties, the political side of things didn't happen. And you cannot run your first term of government allowing ministers to run their own show, quote unquote. You had to have a tighter political type of governance structure within your administration, and that lacking caused a whole lot of other dominoes to fall.
Do you accept Granger's assertion in this book, not Granger, Trotman, that Granger was a great leader?
I don't.
Again, Trotman wrote from his point of view. I'm not concerned with perspective. I am putting to the panelists a statement Trotman made, and I would like the panelists to respond to that.
No, well, that is what I'm saying. Great ideas, but short on execution.
The man wrote the book is his perspective. You can't substitute. Anyway, I am answering no. And I responded to Granger. He just come and shake my hand and so on. He wasn't a person who will move out in the crowd and talk to people, which is necessary. But leaving that aside, one of the major activity, repainting the president's office, make it green. I mean, I, for heaven's name, couldn't comprehend the need. Green. The second thing is this. He decided to change the names of all the ministries and give them brand new names. He created a whole set of confusion as to what. He did this, you know.
That doesn't make a minister a leader, a bad person.
Just let me finish. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm saying he's not a great person. There's a difference. I'm telling you what his concentration was.
But your citing is black and white because
you
of those
did not
little
interrupt.
things.
You did not interrupt. Let me finish.
Okay.
They talk a lot longer than me. You did not interrupt them. You have a habit of interrupting me. Let me finish. I'm setting two instances that he prioritized. Now, my good friend Craig just now said he established a Ministry of Cohesion. He put a minister there, and nothing was done. And my good friend down there tried to complain. Oh yes, he's a good guy. He created a minister. He didn't micromanage. He allowed them carte blanche to do what they want. If I'm the president of a country, the buck stops, and I have ministers, and they're not performing, and I don't remove them, I don't diminish, then something is wrong. And if you put a minister of cohesion who did absolutely nothing, then he is not taking charge of his government. His government failed because he refused. It's just like the population in this country refusing to hold their parties accountable. He refused to hold his ministers accountable. I put you there to perform. I need results. You don't give me the results, I put somebody else. He just left it to flow. He did not lead.
I want to. Anybody want to say anything before I come in?
No, go ahead.
I wanted to say, is it possible that the AFC leadership was always suspicious that Trotman was never heart and soul into the AFC because he had a problem with Hoyt. He left the PNC because of Hoyt, but he went back to the PNC. Now, in the 2016 election, 2016 local government election, Trotman said something that I knew he said it. And Trotman cornered me because I didn't have the proof. And he made a big fuss about it. And he went and he complained to Kaito News Management. I had to apologize. But I knew Trotman said it. The man owned a business. And he was fearful of victimization to come forward and say, yes. At Bartica, in the local government election, he said, the prodigal son has returned. Meaning then that he was always a PNC and he returned to the PNC. I trusted and still trust the person who told me that. But Trotman said to the newspaper, let Kissoon prove that I said that. I couldn't prove it. I had to apologize. So I'm wondering if all the time they're hugging up each other, the AFC, they never trusted him to be a true AFC leader because Hoyt was no longer in the PNC, so he went back to the PNC. I'd like to have your take, all of you, on that.
There was no sense of that, especially, let's say, among the junior people. There was no sense of that. It was not like visible, okay, if it was there. It's not something we could say yes to. It wasn't visible. And the interaction at all our meetings and so on was formal, and there was no indication of the lack of trust in that sense.
I like to contradict you, but I like...
I am at the meetings.
Well, no. But
I don't know.
No. Okay. I have evidence to contradict what he's saying. So. When the two of you finish, I'll tell you what Trotman did during the campaign.
For me, I do not have a different perspective on that. I think Raphael Trotman was heart and soul AFC. He built the AFC. He wanted the AFC to go in a particular direction. I think in his heart, he wanted to see Guyana unite and things like that. And I don't think I have gotten any vibe or sentiment from any leader within the AFC that suggests that some sort of distrust existed. And if that is so, it was really kept under wraps.
I'll come to my evidence after Carrington.
Well, for me, as I agree with Leon Craig here, in my opinion, Raphael never be. Raphael is heart and soul AFC. If the two leaders had a difference with each other, they had difference from time to time. But when it comes to the party, he was a strong, very strong AFC. I never see that he really wanted to run back into the PNC.
All right.
That is my opinion.
Well, you guys have overlooked the missing link. And the missing link is I campaigned for the AFC and spoke at more public meetings than any AFC leader. There were times Craig used to call me, the speaker and turn up. And I will tell you, I was at that office. And during the campaign, the coordinated campaign office was in Albert and the Cross Street there. Queenstown. And Trotman, during the campaign, hardly made any appearance at the AFC during the campaign. And that was even cited to me that this man don't come. This man don't come. He was always at the joint thing where the PNC actually that was the PNC campaign office. Then hierarchical members of the AFC told me that almost for a year after they got into government, Trotman did not come to management meetings. Now I'm putting all three of you on the spot, call you at the management meeting. Is it not true that Trotman missed a substantial amount of management committee meetings when it was held at AFC almost every week or every fortnight?
I can't remember that at all. Many of the meetings he went, I can't remember that.
That was that.
You might not be correct, because I tell you what.
Trotman, I may not be incorrect. Yes,
Trotman was upset, actually. He was upset at the fact that he was sidelined in terms of the minister work. I know that. The second one is this. There was a battle between Camraj and the leader. As I told you, there are certain people in the leadership of these parties that any person that might be in a position potentially to challenge them, they shut them down. And so when somebody become a minister, he's in the spotlight and they get elected. It's like the PPP. Somebody's made him, like if somebody like Robert Bissessar was contesting against me for CC without being a minister, he would lose. And therefore, Camraj will have had a reason. I'm not saying it was, but they would have a reason, okay, this is a challenger to me. And therefore, might as well keep him out. And maybe that people are saying that one of the reasons they did not really push it
anyway,
to be out.
This guy goes to a local government election in 2016. Months, the 2015 election was May. The local government election was about a year after. This guy goes to Bartica. And if you analyze his speech, I did a column on it, and he was upset. And I know why Trotman was upset. That column actually showed that Trotman was more a PNC than the AFC. And he really was livid.
I remember
and called the Kaicho management. I had to I had to apologize. Looking back at it now, I have taken back my apologies. Looking back at what Trotman behaved during the from 2015 to 2020. I know a man, Trotman could sue if he wants. I'm being bold now. I know a man that slept in Trotman's house as a security for years. And then after the elections, of course, the guy went over to the FC. And that man asked me to ask Trotman for a house lot. That man guarded Trotman's life at his home, slept in there. And Trotman, I went to Trotman, and Trotman told me that, well, I will see what I can do. I will ask the housing minister. I said, no, don't ask the housing minister. Demand it from the housing minister. That is practical politics. You know what he said to me? I never forget it. I called him on my phone, and I was at the junction of King and North Road. He said to me, I can't tell a minister to give someone a house lot. I am saying that's the reality of life, of politics anywhere in the world. But I was told Trotman said at the Bartica LGE meeting, the prodigal son has returned. Okay. And I want to believe that after that election, AFC people began to see Trotman more as going over to the PNC rather than the AFC. But maybe he had reasons to also. He wanted a minister job, as he said here, and he wasn't given one. So the topic here tonight is Trotman and his book. So let's
Freddie,
stay
let
on
me just say
Trotman.
this to you. The peculiar thing is this. He is a prodigal son, as you said, and he is more PNC. But what was the response of the housing thing? They want to put the housing minister. But let's look at the office of the president now. Office of the president was submitted a list of persons to be justice of peace. My name was there, they were pushing me around. I spoke to Trotman. Trotman picked the phone on 2 or 3 occasions in front of me, called the office of the president, Mr. Baker, to tell him to appoint me. And never took place. In other words, Baker also had no respect for him. So
I have read this book, and actually it's only 50 pages because the rest is photographs and minutes of parliamentary meetings on natural resources and what have you. It would appear to me that you read between the lines, there is no mention of the AFC and how he talked about how becoming a minister. In these 50 pages, there seem to be some grievance with the AFC. I mean, it says clear in, I have, however, what I believe, and forget to remind myself that I always work on assignment from God. In the Guyanese context, you know what that means? Everyone knows in the Guyanese context, when you get something, you're so annoyed, you said, this God's doing. This God's doing, but God will protect me. And you could see from the paragraph here, he was annoyed. And I think that as early as the 2015 May, I think APNU and AFC deceived this nation. And maybe they say karma come back. That is why the Guyanese people voted out in 2020. This was a mess. Now, for example, this was a mess. How could those people tell the nation that they had 6 ministers and the prime minister when that was not so?
I mentioned it at the
Carrington?
committee. I mentioned it at the committee. I told them.
I know the amount was 4. And then afterwards they had a negotiation where they end up with 8, with including the prime minister, which carry you to 8. But I know the original amount went in the current.
That might be a little inaccurate. Let me just correct that quickly before you go forward. There were 4 named. There were 6 ministries and prime minister, but there were 4 named ministries. If you follow what I'm saying, these 4 ministries were named in the Commonsburg Accord, and the
specifically assigned to us.
Yes, and the others, the president could decide or negotiate the other 2. But right, so there were 4 named ministries.
It was works. Before, agriculture.
But the Commonsburg said 6 plus prime minister.
No. Yeah, but
6.
4 was named. The other
but
2 wasn't named.
4 were designated. Named to PFC.
In the Commonsburg.
In the accord. Yes. I was there. 4 ministries: agriculture, tourism, works, and
public security.
Public security. I'll tell you what. I was sitting there, and when they decided to select the minister, 2 persons from us, which was Gaskin and Patterson, I was left out. Went with the others along there to discuss ministries, and they came up with that. And I have no doubt in my mind, they look after themselves. They assigned, they picked the ministry to fit who they wanted from since then.
It was a moment of glory for Guyana, and then it all went into the trench of miasma.
And one of the reasons is when we were talking of Granger, President Granger, one of the reality, a lot of us went over to the FC, we left the PPP and so on because of the corruption and so on. So we expected better. So when this first thing started with the salaries, unfortunately, Moses Nagamutu justified it.
There's a section of the
Right,
book
he
you
justified
wanted
it.
to deal with.
Then the corruption with the drug band. You have a minister, it was clearly corrupt. And Granger, who is his great president, did nothing. In other words, he behaved just like the PPP leadership. When the people do wrong things, we cover it up and we just bypass it.
You wanted to read something from the...
No.
I saw you reading...
No, I was just looking
Are
at
we going to
something.
stick to that, or are we going to look at some aspect of
I'm not
We have to let me see the time from my Mango Pelter. The time has come. We're overtime. The operator told me overtime. Quickly, your thoughts on Trotman, the APNU AFC government, Granger. Just quickly, beginning with alphabetically Bissessar, and just keep it short.
Well, first of all, as I said, they didn't. The corruption commenced, single sourcing, and all the other thing. Nothing was done about it. That's one. Secondly, when they came up with this idea, when you had the no confidence motion, to my mind, had they accepted it and got the election in March, they had a better chance of winning. But if they lost, they could have come back. But when they went on to the start, the foreign majority and so on, they sung themselves. Any chances of coming back was done. My last question, the oil and gas.
Oh, no, we got to go. Okay.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on those.
Yeah, you kept two.
Those two issues.
That's what the thing about. We were here to discuss the book and Trotman. We're here to discuss the book.
You concentrated so much.
No.
Okay.
Our intention was the Trotman's statements.
As I said earlier,
but you have oil and gas and all that. Carrington.
As I said earlier, that I hadn't read the book because I didn't have the time today. But in general, in terms of where we learn into government, they had problems after we learned into government. Right through, we had problems till 2020 between APNU, AFC. To me, there weren't that cooperation. There was always that fear. And the fear mostly come, the APNU always feared that the AFC will climb the ladder. And if they climb the ladder too much, then you may have to give them more. And that was one of the biggest fear. And in many times in terms, not too much with Granger, but I think with the other ministers and the other people. So you had a little problem right through till from 2015 to 2020. To me, they had a little... APNU had this trust AFC.
We got to go. The last say is the latest test player for the West Indies.
Okay. So to be quick, for me, the weakest aspect of the APNU AFC government was their politics. In my personal opinion, the government ran throughout the 4.5, 5 years, whatever the period turned out to be. The weakest aspect was politics. There were some bright spots in administration, but the politics of government, and it is clear when you read Raphael's book, throughout the entire book, he wrote about his entire, as I mentioned earlier, wrote about his entire time as minister and the oil and gas and all of that, and nothing about the political dimensions of things.
We gotta go.
That was symptomatic of that government.
Okay, we gotta go. I think the three of you have been here 3 times before. You have made this, you have contributed to the success of this program. I will like to have you, all 3 of you back again. You are going to be invited back again. There's no doubt about that. Discussion was nice. It's always a lot of views when this combination is on, and I look forward to it again. I think we've had an interesting evening, and we will do this again. Thanks for watching us. This has been the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We were discussing with Leonard Craig, Rajendra Bissessar, and Michael Carrington, 3 former very, very big wigs in the AFC leadership, but they are no longer there. We were discussing Trotman's book, Raphael Trotman's book, From Destiny to Prosperity. We have gone way over time, and our operator is in my ears. So thanks for being with us. As I normally say, catch you later, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.